Action. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Deeply Rooted podcast. I am your host, Kevin. We're also joined by my producer and co-host, Galen Jackson. How you doing, Galen?
What up, what up, what up?
All right. So quick overview of today's episode. Today, we're going to be going over embracing weakness and viewing weakness not just as a blemish on our personal life or record, but as part of the journey. I'll be reading over Jocko's book, Discipline Equals Freedom, the chapter on weakness. And at the end, I'll be going over a nonprofit organization by a good person that I know, Arthur Winowitzki. His foundation is called The Life Goes On. And I'll be going over, just their mission statement, how it was founded, and what he's looking to accomplish, and then tie that all in with the show. But to start, just want to give a quick update and just catch up on, over the last week and stuff like that. Just a quick rundown. I just started school back up, so I've been kind of like in the weeds of things, been stressing out with school, but in a good way, stress in a good way, making me feel like I'm, working towards something and trying to accomplish something. So it's all stuff that I've been wanting to do for some time, and I'm finally in a position where I can finally get it done. So school's been going well. The only thing is, I don't like homework. I hate homework. I can't, I know hate's a strong word, but if it's a test or a quiz or, something small, discussion, I'll do that, no problem. But when we're talking about writing papers and formatting, APA style, minimum word requirements, minimum number of references, oh my goodness. I put it off to the last second, and I'm trying not to do that anymore. So that's been a big thing for me, is like making sure that I do my homework early, not necessarily just on time, but early. And so it's been going well. And one thing that really made me laugh that happened last week was I had done all my homework. So I spent hours and hours and hours doing my homework. I thought I got everything done by the submission deadline. And so I'm sitting here patiently waiting for my grade. And so my grades come back in, and I see that I have a B, and I'm like, okay, well, what did I do wrong? So I go look, and on one of my assignments, I got I had points taken away because I misread the due date, and I thought it was due on a Sunday when it was due Wednesday. And so sure enough, here I lost credit on that. And so it was a little frustrating, but it kind of lit a fire under my butt, where it's like, hey, no, you just need to do the right thing and look at all the instructions and stuff like that. But it's a work in progress, and definitely looking to improve on that.
So you said, you used a strong word, right? And you said hate.
Hate.
Why do you hate
Homework?
Yes.
Time consuming, the rubric. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like with homework, it's like there's an expectation just to make sure that you get everything in the rubric, but there's not enough emphasis put in on actually understanding the material. So a lot of it, I would feel more comfortable doing a presentation on it than I would writing
100%.
paper.
Yeah.
Because I'd rather just be like, hey, look, I actually grasped the material. Where it's like, it's a paper, we're talking about formatting, we're talking about grammar, we're talking about this, that, and the other. And it's just, for me, it makes me want to pull my hair out. And not a huge fan of it. Definitely not.
Well, listen, a part of it is you're in another chapter in your life, right? And you're a mature, grown adult that's been through boot camp and all this stuff. So some of it's kind of like coming back through, damn, I got to do this shit again. And, and you're in there with these. Are you in class or are you virtual?
I'm doing online. I go to Colorado Christian University.
Okay, so that makes it a little bit more challenging, right? Because you don't have anybody to answer to except for yourself.
Yeah.
But, knowing who you are and what you've done, I know 100% you won't have a problem at all. So, and hate's not the word. Let's get it. Come up with a better. No.
What word should I use?
I don't know. Open up that beautiful book over there that gives you all the life lessons. You're right. And look to see. Yeah, because hate is like, not good.
Fine. I mean, I think it's perfect with the subject of today, which is weakness.
We go. Yeah.
And one of my weaknesses is doing my homework. I really don't like doing my homework.
100%.
But other than that, that school's one portion, and then I'm gearing back up. I've been back in the gym, gearing back up to go to basketball, wheelchair basketball. I play here locally for the Parasport Spurs. And so since I got fitted for my wheelchair about two months ago, so I'm waiting still for it to get delivered. They had to do the measurements and stuff like that. But once I get my personal wheelchair, I'll be back out there full time. Except one of my teammates, I was telling him about it. We were talking, just catching up. And he's like, well, why don't you just come out here now? And I was like, oh, well, I don't have a wheelchair. And he's like, well, we have a bunch of loaner wheelchairs in the Connex back. You can go find a wheelchair. And I was
Right.
like, you
No
know what?
excuses. No excuses.
Yeah, you know what? I was like, oh, yeah. In my head, I'm like, you know what? Last time I did that, I ended up with these giant knots. And he was like, well, you can at least push. I was like, okay, well, I can do strength and conditioning. You're right.
Yep.
You're right. I can just
Yep.
go out there and do
Yep.
strength conditioning. So that'll be I'm really excited and looking forward to that, especially having my own wheelchair. But I'm looking forward to getting back out there and just being out there with the guys and being involved with the team and, you know, competing. I love competing and just being out there and
The camaraderie, the team.
the camaraderie, the team
Yeah.
camaraderie. And then, you know, qualifying for nationals every year. You know, they have nationals and we visit as a team. All teams from around the nation, they'll go to this one spot. Sometimes it's Chicago, sometimes it's in Kansas, whatever the situation may be. And that's a good time to kind of see where you stand, where your team stands against, you know, other teams in the nation. Then
Sure.
eventually someone's crowned champion.
Here we go. All right.
Yeah.
So wheelchair basketball, future episodes, we'll be showing highlights of you dunking.
Oh, I don't know about dunking. I can't even dunk when I was standing up. You know, when I was able-bodied, I couldn't even dunk. Short people problems. I'm saying,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
I can touch net, you know, in the backboard. But yeah, I mean, just those are two quick things.
Hey, you could be like that dude in the from what is that? What's the name of that show? Nitro Factory?
Nitro Circus.
Nitro Circus?
Yeah.
So you could do that. You could get like a ramp, come down the ramp and shoot off the ramp in the wheelchair, do a backflip and dunk it.
Oh, that'd be so cool to do stunts.
You could literally do that, dude.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
do basketball stunts. Nobody
Yeah, and there's
does.
so many cool people out there that do. I don't know their names, but I know there's this individual who I'm pretty sure he's sponsored by Monster or something like that.
Yeah.
He does like X Games type stuff.
Shit.
I don't know his level of injury. You can tell
Yeah.
that he's a little bit more able-bodied than I am.
Yeah, yeah.
But this dude's out here going down ramps like you would in a skateboard.
Yeah, that's that
BMX
Nitro
bike.
dude. That's that Nitro Circus dude.
Insane.
Yeah, and crazy insane. I remember
Insane.
watching like when he was first doing it, and like it's amazing. But yeah, that core that he has for that, obviously it looks like it's probably just waist up.
Yeah.
Is his injury? So
Yeah. But I just can imagine the adrenaline.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh man, how good must that feel just to like while you're up in the air, like looking down at the ground.
I mean,
mid somersault.
it's pushing the limits. Maybe that could be a TV show that this goes to. And with your injury, right? What could you do? But you still could drive a car. You still could go drifting. You still could drive a Ferrari. You still could, find these able-bodied or these non-able-bodied things and be a part of it. Anyway, I'm talking too much.
Yeah,
This is
no,
your
it's
show.
all good. Yeah, no, I like that. Yeah, no, that's good. And who knows? You're right. Maybe further down the line, that's another area that I can venture off and explore and see what
I
comes from
mean,
it.
like doing everything in the wheel, cooking. Like, you know what? I haven't seen somebody that's like out and about, taking trips and have a YouTube channel about just exploring in a wheelchair.
I need to do that because like as you know, I just came back from Vegas maybe a month
Sure,
and a half ago.
sure. Yeah.
And I do that. Like I'll go on long road trips. Just last year, I drove 26 hours to California and 26 hours back, and I was out there. And I just do. I haven't done a good enough job at documenting all this stuff.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
kind of hard when it's like just me and my wheelchair, and then all the extra stuff that goes just to be able to pull out a camera and do it all on my own. But
maybe we need to come up with a contraption that has two cameras on it, and you hit a record button.
yeah, I need to though, and
Yeah.
I think just like how I did right now, it's like I put barriers on myself.
Right.
Before I even try.
Yeah,
And I think that I should try and at least have, even if it's like the footage isn't as great as I would like it to be,
Right.
but that's my starting point. And that's
Exactly,
that's what I should be
100%.
doing.
But you have a chest harness for your GoPro, right? I mean, and all we need is like another GoPro over your shoulder and another GoPro facing at you, and now we got a 3-camera shoot.
A 360 one. I've been thinking about doing
that 360 one's nice.
I've been thinking
that.
about doing
The Insta 360 8K. Yeah, that might be the way to go just because of the way it shoots. But yeah, we'll talk about it. Anything I can help you get.
Right. All right. So to open the show, getting into my handy dandy book, Discipline Equals Freedom: The Field Manual by Jocko Willink. Today's chapter is on weakness. And it says, weakness. Do I have weakness? I am nothing but weakness. I'm not naturally strong or fast or flexible. I'm certainly not the smartest person in the world. I get emotional over stupid things. I eat the wrong foods. I don't sleep enough. I procrastinate and I waste time. I care too much about meaningless things and not enough about important things. My ego is too big. My mind is too small, often trapped inside itself. Now, all that being said, I have a saying: a person's strength is often their biggest weakness, but their weakness can become strengths. I'm sorry. Me, I am weak. In all those ways, I am weak. But I don't accept that. I don't accept that I am what I am and that is what I am doomed to be. No, I do not accept that. I'm fighting. I'm always fighting. I'm struggling. I'm scraping and kicking and clawing at those weaknesses to change them, to stop them. Some days I win, but some days I don't. But each and every day, I get up and I move forward with my fist clenched toward the battle, toward the struggle. And I fight with everything I've got. And those flaws, as I strive to be, I'm so sorry, I totally jacked that up, but all right, let's go back to it. Toward the battle, toward the struggle, and I fight with everything I've got to overcome those weaknesses and those shortfalls and those flaws as I strive to be just a little bit better today than I was yesterday.
What does that mean to you, man?
What's that?
What does that mean to you?
To me, it tells me that it's okay. There's a big part in there that talks about ego, and I think a lot of times, and especially in the past, I think that's been one thing where it's like, maybe not necessarily the biggest thing that I've struggled with, but in comparison. Try to compare myself to other people doing the same thing, or other people in the same field, my coworkers or anything like that. Because I'm competitive in nature, and that's what I want to. I want to be the best at everything that I can be. But if my ego's too big and my head's too big, and I think that everything that I do is perfect, and I don't go back and reflect and look at those things that maybe I can be a little bit better at. For example, the homework thing that we were just talking about, and stuff like that. If I'm like, well, I did it, and it is what it is. The teacher just graded me that way. No, I mean, there's certain things that I can do differently.
Yeah, it's getting better one day at a time.
Exactly.
Is what it boils down to.
Exactly.
It really is getting better one day at a time.
And it's, I think, reshaping the way we look at our weaknesses too. Before the podcast, or earlier this week when I was doing my research or just taking notes and stuff for the show, I actually looked up the word weakness or weak in the dictionary. There's 10 separate
definitions for weak, right? Yeah.
Right, 10 separate definitions.
W-E-A-K, weak, yes.
Yeah, and it's but because it applies in different ways in our lives. But for me right now, weakness for the sake of the show is the inability to control one's emotions, desires, or reactions to external events or personal situations.
Yep, and mine, just real quick, is my weakness is asking for help, right? And you've even said, "Hey, man, I'll help you out," at the studio, and I haven't gotten there yet, and I don't know why I feel some sort of way, but I'm going to make a commitment here on air with you right now.
Let's do this.
On November the 15th.
Okay.
There's an event, and that event is at the Boeing Center. I still have to bid on it and everything else like that. So if I get it, I want you to come work with me on it.
Absolutely.
And what I'm going to do, and I was like, what can he do? And I don't know what you can do yet, right? But I know I can attach a wagon to your ass, and you can pull stuff around, if we need to pull stuff around, or go check out rooms or whatever else. But my blind part, or my blind piece, is like, what can he do, rather than can he do everything? Because you're going to tell me no if you can't do something, but let me give you the opportunity to do it. So, but yeah, November 15th, mark your calendar on
All right,
that.
November 15th, that's out. And on the wagon, now that, so I just got the email that my
you will?
My control module is back, so I have to go over there and get it installed.
Okay.
So I'll be able to pull the wagon, no problem.
No, man, no, you got to do that with your arms, not with the little, not the handy wheel.
Well, it depends on how much you got on.
No, it's not gonna be a lot.
I might need a boost.
There's no hills like over here.
Yeah,
so.
and that I can't wait. I can't wait to use my smart drive on that finally. Yeah. That way I don't take this sketchy elevator.
You don't like the sketchy elevator,
I took a video before this where it's like pitch black in there. There's some random jacket. It takes forever to open the door, so you don't know if you're going to be stuck in that thing. I was like, man, well, good thing I brought my catheter back, because like in the event that I get stuck in here, who knows when I'm getting out? Fire department's gonna have to go in there and extract me.
Hey, that's how actually happened. I don't know if it's fire department, but we've actually had to call somebody out to get people out. So
really,
not in a long time though.
Okay.
And I actually wrote it the other day. Oh, I got a huge story for you. I found out. I tell you, they broke into my other warehouse.
Yes.
I got some stuff back. I'll tell you about it.
Okay, awesome. That's great.
Yeah,
That's good news.
All right.
How society views weakness. All right. In many cases, Weakness is seen negatively, implying inferiority, lack of capability, or dependence on others. And when I look at that from my level, I'm like, okay, yeah, there's been times where I've looked at people in that context or in that way. I mean, there's that old saying, you're only strong as your weakest link or your weakest person. And from a team perspective, in sports, there's been times where I've looked at it like that, where it's like, okay, when it comes down to the matchup, it's not really a good matchup because we struggle in this area. And I think oftentimes that we shut doors, we close those doors before we even allow, or we make up our mind before we even go through with it, because we think that weakness is going to be exploited, and then that there's no way to overcome that. But that's not the case. And I've come to find that just trial and error.
Mm-hmm.
But the importance of acknowledging your weakness, I think that gives you that foundation, that baseline. Because once you have that weakness, you can make a plan and work to improve it. So with identifying your weakness, that leads to self-improvement, better decision-making, emotional intelligence, and improved relationships. And that's all just based on understanding what the weakness is, how it impacts your life, and, working towards it. So we were talking about communicating, that being your weakness, and asking for help, I should say. Not necessarily communicate. So asking for help, right?
I communicate well.
Yeah.
I just don't ask for help. Shit.
Yeah. So asking for help, right? But now if you know that you have something coming up and you're gonna need some help, just how you told me about that event November 15th, I mean, that right there, it's leading to better decision, or can lead to better decision making. You're able to look at it and be like, okay, I'm gonna need help doing this, that, and the other, and it allows you to prepare more. And that way, those weaknesses don't hold you back.
Yeah, 1% better all the time.
Yeah, 1% better.
Even we got a new intern, Miss Soroya. You'll hear her on some different podcasts in your own podcast from time to time. Mm-hmm. But even like setting up lights and having her set up the cameras and taking the time to ask her to do it rather than doing it and showing her how to do it. Mm-hmm. It's one of my downfalls. I think it's a lot of men's downfalls. Yeah, is asking for help because we want to be so struck. Yeah, ego. Yeah,
ego.
Exactly.
And I think too, it's like looking at ego also from I guess a more in-depth look, where it's like maybe it's less of like, oh, my head's just big. Sometimes it's just little things like that, where it's it doesn't have to be a giant deal or a big deal about like your ego. Is just like sometimes you don't want to ask for help, right? Or sometimes you don't allow yourself to make yourself look weak.
100%.
Yeah. But I mean, in my life, there's been several occasions where, I've looked at, in reflection, I've looked at weakness and seeing how, okay, well, I took something that I was not good at and slowly got better. And that I've done that with fitness. Believe it or not, there was a time in my early 20s where I just kind of ballooned up. I was eating the wrong foods. I was drinking. I was not really like so much into sports or just like the things that I like to do. And I was more of just like kind of complacent, kind of just enjoying life. And I don't want to say enjoy, because even though I was doing like those temporary things that gave me that temporary satisfaction, sleeping in, hanging out with my friends while neglecting the other things, it wasn't conducive to what I wanted to accomplish in the long run, right? So I looked at that. I looked at myself in the mirror one day and I was just like, man, something's got to change, because at the time, being that I was in the military, I have my PT test, I have work, and I have things that we're starting to suffer because of those weaknesses, those things that I couldn't put. It's not that I couldn't put a stop to, but I just decided not to put a stop to. I was leaning into, I guess, kind of like the party boy, little like frat boy type of mentality. And it wasn't that I didn't go to college.
You discovered girls,
huh?
You discovered girls.
Well, yeah, I did that in high school though. So
I know, but I mean, it doesn't. And then you're in the uniform,
Yeah.
And so it's
oh my goodness, you know what?
And you were in San Diego.
No, I was here.
Oh, San Antonio. Okay.
I was here in San Antonio.
Just as bad as San Diego.
I love San Antonio. San Antonio has been so good to me. It really has. It really has.
It is. So once you got in the wheelchair, right, 3 years ago, what was that? I'm getting from you after listening. This is our third show together. That was like a new challenge for you. Like it almost re-energized you because it gave you. I think you enjoy challenges. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And so it's giving you kind of like a boost. It's boosted your ego to an extent. So now you got to work on the ego a little bit, but it's it's a change.
Right.
Yeah.
The injury for me, I feel like it stripped away everything that I thought I had figured out. And that was like the drawing point. So like now it's like I wake up every day, I guess, deficient or in a, how do I want to say this? A compromising situation.
Gotcha.
I wake up every day compromised. And I know that it's like, okay, well, even though I can't walk, my weakness right now, I can't walk. Like that's a weakness. I'm not saying that that's what defines me or anything like that, but a weakness in a lot of things in my life is the inability to walk or be able to move around effectively, right? So I had to reshape that. So for example, with my son, when I want to go out places and do things with him, like take him to the park, I can't, chase him around if he starts to run away or if he gets hurt up on the slide, or coming down the slide or anything like that. Those are things that I can't ordinarily or necessarily do how I would like to do or how I was able to do when I was able-bodied. But that weakness in itself made me think of other ways that I can overcome that or be a little bit more available or still be able to take my son to the park and do things. And but yeah, no, you're right. You're right. I think that having that challenge, I think it kind of lights a fire under my ass, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, to kind of do those things. But I mean, it also happened with finances. When I would deploy, you make your money when you deploy. You get a little bit extra money, and then everything's tax free, and you're not worrying about all the bills you have. You're not paying rent. You can pretty much put everything on hold, whether it be your phone bill, anything like that. You can put it on hold, and you start saving all that money, right? Well, when I would get back, I would splurge on the things that I wanted to get. It was all wants. I mean, some of them were needs, furniture, things like that, but most of it was wants. I wanted to have like the latest up-to-date technology, whether at the time it was like a GoPro Hero 3 Plus, right? I got my GoPro Hero 3 Plus, and then I was using it, and then I was using it to document the things that I was doing with training and sports or just life events in general. And then it just sat there. And so it's like, I had a weakness in spending inefficiently or not being able to save money or being irresponsible with my finances. And then it's not until an emergency situation comes up and then it's like, oh man, I need this money. And it's like, oh, well, I just blew it all like on random things. And so I was like, okay, well, having a situation like that where you need the money and you can't have, you need to find a way to make it happen or find a way to come up with this money. It's like that identified a weakness in what I was trying to do. So what I do, I learned how to budget. I went to some financial classes, learned about different apps. There's different things out there like Fudget on the iPad, or nowadays it's like Rocket Money. There's Mint. There's a whole bunch of different ones.
So now you have a tremendous amount of time to learn. Because you're not working, anything major, but, you can learn crypto, you can learn Rocket Money, you can learn how to use these things to save money, to grow. There's a future there, man. There's a big future there because you do like to learn, and that's amazing.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it too is just understanding that you have, like, if you have a weakness and you have overcome something, that you can do it over and over again. It's not like, okay, I did this one time and that's it. That's the end of the story. No, it's like, okay, that's just experience that you get. And when you can reshape those thoughts and ideas and start going back and being like, okay, this is the next thing that I'm working on. So identifying that weakness, whether it be financial, whether it be your health, fitness, anything like that. And yeah.
Awesome, man. So what else you got?
Okay. I'd like to go over the Life Goes On Foundation.
Okay. Now, whose life goes on?
All right, so the Life Goes On Foundation was founded by Arthur Winowitsky, and he's a spinal cord injury survivor. I'll go into a story here in a little bit, but based on he does have a nonprofit. His nonprofit's called the Life Goes On Foundation. Their mission states: we strive to end senseless gun violence, empower those with spinal cord injuries, and uplift our younger generation. Quick background on Arthur and his story. States, Arthur Winowitsky founded LGO, Life Goes On, in 2007 after he was shot in the chest outside a San Francisco nightclub by an unknown assailant, leaving him paralyzed from the chest down. The shooter stole $20 from Arthur and was never found. After a 23-day battle in a medically induced coma, Renowitsky woke up on Christmas Eve day to learn that he would never walk again. The news inspired him to fight paralysis by spreading spinal cord injury awareness and give him the line in the sand against youth violence. Renowitsky knew the best route was to create a nonprofit, LGO, and aggressively spread this message of overcoming adversity. In recognition of his work, Renowitsky was named a hometown hero by the Bay Area news group for the summer of 2009, and also received a citation of appreciation from the Oakland Mayoral Council Against Violence that same year. Arthur has been featured sharing LGO on media outlets such as ABC Los Angeles, KTVU Bay Area, CNN, Hot Talk New Radio 560, Daily Review, Oakland Tribune, and Chronicle Live. All right, so obviously, here we have Arthur, who a spinal cord injury patient who dealt with something pretty significant and drastic in his life, something life-changing, right? So he had his whole life ahead of him, and then this one thing happened, changed his life forever. And rather than staying in that place of pain, in that place of hurt, struggle, he used that, right? So because he has, even though we don't have the exact same injury, even though our circumstances were completely different, some of the weaknesses we share are similar, right? We don't have the ability to walk. We have like a lot of the same medical pitfalls, I guess, if you will. But looking at his story and seeing what he's been able to do, and looking at how he used his weakness in order to improve not just his life but the life of others, I mean, I think that exactly hits the nail on the head when it comes to weakness, right? We can't avoid weakness. No one's perfect, and if we allow our weaknesses to take hold of us and capture it, like not allow us to move forward, then I mean that's when weakness wins. And so, just how we talked today, identify that weakness, put a plan in place to work towards it, self-improvement, and seeing that it can improve your relationships and stuff like that. I think that's big. I think that's big. And that's exactly what we're doing here. I mean, we're just getting off the ground running and seeing that, it's not just me that's done something like this or is doing something like this, but other people have done it with the same weaknesses or vulnerabilities or pitfalls that I have. Mm-hmm. It's like, boom, that's for me, that's inspirational. That's motivational.
Yeah, 100%.
And yeah, I mean, that's his story is pretty insane.
Yeah. So the picture I put up earlier, so I put up his website, and then I have his picture in a wheelchair next to him. Mm-hmm. So have you met him in person?
Not in person. I've talked to him. What's crazy is I was stationed out in the Bay Area from 2017 to 2019. Okay. Which is where he's from. And so I had just talked to him because I told him that I was going to be doing this and going over his platform and stuff. Just a small world. But I think it's beautiful that he took this challenge. And all these things that I'm dealing with, he's dealt with in some way, shape, or form, maybe different, maybe similar. But seeing that, I'm like, okay, man, it just puts everything that we're going over, it puts everything that we read today, it puts it in perspective. And he's doing some really good things with it. He does public speaking, he goes out, does events. Every year he has a gala. And they have silent auctions. They raise money. Another thing that he does too is with his nonprofit is they'll provide for people that need help or want to get involved in being more active. He's provided things like medical supplies or equipment like a sports chair. Sports chairs are really expensive too. I mean, they range anywhere from I want to say $3,000 to upwards of $12,000 depending on the quality that you want to get.
Right.
And for the average person, that's not something that's really feasible, especially if you're just coming off a spinal cord injury and you might have lost your job, or money's going to be tight because being in a wheelchair or having a spinal cord injury is a full-time job. It really is. Especially if you're complete. And if you're incomplete, then you still have challenges too, and it's still a full-time job.
Right.
But I mean, you have to pay for your medical supplies, your catheters, your travel catheters, which is different than, I need to start bringing aids. So, because I have like my travel catheters.
Oh, yeah,
and my
yeah,
catheters,
yeah,
start
yeah,
doing
yeah,
separation. So you have catheters, travel catheters, then you need like gloves so you can go to the restroom. You need your like suppositories, any kind of medication. For example, like mirabegron. If you're complete, you can't control your bladder. And so sometimes if you do things like transfer or anything like that, it like you'll leak. But these are all things that stack up, right? We're talking about things that stack up. And now, so if you want to be able to go out there and be involved, say with sports or in some sort of community, it's like all those things cost money. Hobbies are expensive.
Sure.
Hobbies are expensive.
Yeah, 100%.
And so, you know, the fact that he's doing this, even though he has all this extra stuff going on, I mean, how beautiful is that?
Yeah.
Giving back, and that's exactly what I want to do. So I see my weaknesses, and I used to be ashamed of my weaknesses. And for a little bit while I was in the hospital, I wouldn't say that I was ashamed of it at that point, but I was petrified by it or terrified by it, because I didn't know what I would be able to do or what I wasn't going to be able to do. But now, again, just going back and saying, okay, slowly catching your groove, doing accomplishing small tasks and working my way up to this, I'm like, okay, well, those same weaknesses that I had when I first started, being in a wheelchair, not being able to transfer and not being less independent, are things that I'm now doing on my own. I'm like, okay, well, I made progress. So then it's like, what's next? And it always goes back to, well, the source inspiration for my improvement, or a lot of people's improvement in general, is going to be that weakness, right? So being able to go back and doing that self-reflection, looking at your life, analyzing, okay, why am I not meeting my goals? Why am I not meeting my targets? What's the issue? Okay, well, you find the issue, that's your weakness, and then you put a plan in play and you keep going.
You keep on going, right? 100%.
Yeah.
100%. I agree. I love it. So as we talk, right, and as we go from podcast to podcast, what do you want people to really learn? What do you want people to get? I mean, I'm inspired every time I see you. I need to see you probably more often, to be honest. No diddy.
Diddy.
But what do you want people to get from your podcasts?
I want people to believe in themselves. I want people to not look at me and say, oh, I feel sorry for that guy. I feel bad for that guy. Or I'm inspired by it. No, I don't want any of that. I want to see people say, like, okay, well, he's a human just like me, and this is what happened to him is capable or can happen to anyone, right? And use that as okay, well, what is he talking about? Okay, the things that I'm talking about aren't just applicable to me. The things that I'm talking about aren't exclusive to a certain way of life. And this isn't like secret knowledge. This is all stuff that we all know. And sometimes after getting beat up by life, we just don't think about or we don't consider. And I think I would really like for people to be able to reach their goals, meet their goals. A lot of times we're so trapped, and I was in this case too, especially before I got hurt. I know we've talked about it a little bit where, I was getting pressured by my boss to stay working when, I was dealing with this medical stuff. Well, why'd I do it? Because I had to put food on the table. So we have these constraints. We have these obligations. We have to pay our rent. We have to pay our car note, cell phone. We have kids to tend to, all these like life things that go on. And we get beat up and we forget
the simple things. Yeah, the simple things of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I want people just to be able to challenge themselves.
Okay.
Be able to challenge themselves and look and set those goals. And I want them to be huge. I want them to be big. I want them to scare you, because my goals scare me. Like when I first started, I was terrified. I was terrified to do this. Why? Because I don't have any background in this. I don't have any firsthand experience. I'm just going. And I know that, since this is something that I struggle with, and I knew that it was a weakness, I just, getting better, like you say, 1% better every day, slowly get better every day. And, what I want this to serve as a reminder. I just want to get one person's ear and just be like, you know what, I need to get back in the gym.
Yeah, and we can't let work perfect get in the way of possible.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing, is this false sense of perfection that we have from our leaders, from our family members, from our girlfriends, from our friends. It's bullshit, right? There's no such thing as perfect. We just have to figure out how to get along and do the best we can.
Right. And it's reshaping.
Sure.
Reshaping, because I mean, these are just key words. Everything that I've read so far from this book or that we've talked about have been key words, right?
Right.
And you always ask, well,
Right.
what does that mean to you? Or what does that mean in general? And it's, sometimes we just see those words and that's where it stops.
Exactly.
And
100%.
so if we can go back and we can look at it a little bit deeper and we can start processing some of these things, it's like, boom, that's where progress is starting to be made, baby steps, gradually.
100%.
But yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much all I have for today. I just want to like today's topic is something that is really big for me, you know, because it's like Jocko says, I am nothing but weakness, right? But I don't allow those things to define me or who I am, right? Just because I'm in a wheelchair and I can't walk doesn't mean that I can't play sports. It may not be at the same way that I used to do it. But if I allow myself to sit in that self-pity where it's like I can't play sports or I'm gonna be nowhere near as athletic as what I once was, I just cap myself and I don't allow myself to see what can be. But yeah.
Agreed. All right, my man. Anything else?
Last thing, I just want to do a quick shout out to. I'm gonna move the microphone. The Mallard Order. Mallard Order is a project on Cardano. It's a blockchain project. You can find it on Cardano. It's a NFT project, PFP, a whole bunch of ducks, mallards, beautiful lore. The owners or project founders, Demos and Nemesis, two great people. I've had the opportunity to meet them. I met them a couple years ago, and I got to see them again at Rare Evo earlier this year in Las Vegas. Just awesome people. If you're not familiar with NFTs or just NFTs in general and you would like to get to know, definitely check them out. You can find them on Twitter and you can find them on Instagram. And yeah.
That's it. You gonna tell the people bye?
Yeah, sorry,
we haven't figured out how to actually wrap the show up yet.
My brain's ever. All right, so thank you everyone for joining us. So yeah, today we went over weakness, embracing your weakness, identifying weakness, and not allowing that weakness to hold you back. I also went into a little bit about the Life Goes On Foundation and Arthur Winowitzki. If you would like to get involved, I'll link his website underneath, or his nonprofit in the description. From there, you can donate, or you just can get involved if you're in the local area, and see different ways you can be involved. But yeah, thank you very much for joining. I'll catch you guys next week.